Hello again. This is the same concept, same study. We are looking at the effects of Memo Plus, this drug over here, um, on your memory. But we are using a repeated measures design. Let's say for a reason that is, I don't have enough participants in my experiment. I only have 50, so I have to quote unquote recycle my participants. In other words, they're the experimental group, they're also the control group. But how does that work? Well, here's an example of a repeated measures design. You have 50 participants, right? Just 50, not 200, not 150, just 50. It's hard to get participants in a psychological experiment, right? But you will compensate them. You will give them, let's say, 300 baht for participating in your study. You thank them, etc., right? You have 50, you give them the sugar pill, and then they take the memory test. You get the score. Tomorrow, or after a week, you give them the real Memo Plus, make them wait 30 minutes, and then they take the same digit span test. Hopefully they don't remember the numbers, or maybe you can change the numbers, but it's the same task. This is now considered treatment 1, or treatment condition number 2. This one is treatment condition number 1. We don't really use the term group anymore because they are the same group of people, but they just have different conditions or treatment. All right, so this is treatment 1, treatment 2, but the same group essentially. And then if you want, if there's a variation of the medicine, you can take Memo Plus 200 grams. First it was 100 grams, let's say 200 grams, just like the coffee, right? Different in size or volume. Okay, now it's the same 50 persons, and then you will take they will take the test and find out if their scores improved or the same. If it's the same, maybe it doesn't matter if it's 100 or 200 milligrams, because it's effective either way. But if it is the same for all, for treatment 1, treatment 2, and treatment 3, then there's no effect, unfortunately, or there's a placebo effect rather, right? Okay, so maybe that's it. I just remember participant variables, we talked about it before. Maybe just read through it. These are the individual differences that could direct or affect the study, and that makes your conclusion invalid or hard to interpret. Order effects can be divided into two. Let's talk about the order effects here. One effect could be the practice effect, and then the fatigue effect. What is a practice effect? The practice effect is, for example, they took the test. Now they have an idea what the test looks like, right? The test is you say the number, you write it down. So now, because you have practice, you are expected to do better here. And that may not necessarily because of the Memo Plus pill. It's because you had practice. Therefore, it's the practice effect. Not really the drug effect, but the practice effect, which, makes your study not so good. All right? All right, next is the fatigue effect. For example, you gave a very long personality test or a very long memory task. Maybe they'll just get tired or annoyed, they won't take it seriously, and it will make their scores lower. If their scores are lower, because they got annoyed or tired or did not take the test seriously, it's called the fatigue effect. It's no longer because the Memo Plus has a negative effect on their memory. All right. One funny thing though, one negative effect, or what do you call this? Side effect of Memo Plus, you salivate a lot. There's a lot of saliva produced in your mouth. So people who use Memo Plus spit a lot or swallow their spit a lot. A very unusual side effect, and I think I'd rather not remember stuff than have a lot of saliva. What a weird side effect, but it does happen, I was told. All right, so remember, if you do this study, sugar pill, take the personality test, Memo Plus, take the personality test, we might have the order effect, which was mentioned earlier. There could be practice effect or order effects. What you can do is to counterbalance it. Maybe pause the video and read it for now. Now that you know what counterbalancing is, let's visualize it using the placebo study. So we have 50 participants having this direction or design, and another 50 participants having this direction of the design. Memo Plus first, and then they take the digit span, and next week they take the sugar pill and they take the same test. Different numbers, same test. Now, because we changed the order, we have counterbalanced it. We made it a bit more valid, a better research design. All right. Now we're moving on to a next research question, and here it is: does mindfulness meditation significantly reduce panic attacks? But I feel like we can improve this better and just ask this question, which is, does IQ influence the effectiveness of mindfulness and meditation therapy? So this is just one whole concept: mindfulness and meditation therapy. Let's call it MMT. Okay, so IQ, does it affect how effective MMT is among those with panic attacks? Okay, now I want you to look at this new kind of research design for experiments in psychology: matched pairs design. Pause it and read it, please. Okay, you're probably confused what it means, but let's visualize it. For example, you have very few participants, and the reason you only have 8 participants is, well, it's hard to find people with current experience of chronic or repetitive panic attacks, okay, or people with panic disorder. So you have 8 and you try to match it together based on their demographic, or what what do you call this, based on their another factor. For example, in our earlier question, does IQ influence effectiveness of mindfulness meditation therapy? So maybe you can check their IQ and then group them into 4: very high IQ, average, or low IQ, right? And you will pair them. The example that I did, I'm just remembering now, the example that I did in class is socioeconomic status or wealth, right? Very high wealth, high, average, or low wealth. Let's now think about it in terms of IQ, because that was the original question, right? So there are 2 participants with very high IQ. How do you know? You gave an IQ test. Then 2 with high, 2 with average, and 2 with low. Now you will pair them. What does that mean? One goes to the, this one goes to the control group. The other guy goes to the experimental group. This girl goes to the control group. This girl goes to the experimental group, etc., and so on. Right? Now they are paired. There is one representative in each group for each IQ level, right? It's actually regardless of gender or other variables. So now look at this. We have 2, right? You do a coin flip to find out which one of these persons go to the experimental group or control group. Now they are assigned, right? 1 for each group. Now you will find out, depending on the results of the study, if the effect matters depending on their IQ. All right? For example,